My name is Kyle Dumas, and I am the ARM Data Tools lead, and today we'll be covering the ARM Data Workbench webinar. In the room with me, I have Gary Prakash, and also online that I'll be presenting will be Wade Darnell and Michael Gina Siracusa. So the team that is behind the Workbench is spread across the user tools team, DevOps, and then Gary and I. The user tools team has been making the tools that are for the UI, and then DevOps has been supporting the Jupyter instances. So we'll be covering an introduction to the Workbench, its components, and we'll be doing demos on the dashboard, the Workbench dashboard, discovering ARM Data Workbench features, the Data Studio, and the Jupyter capabilities. And at the end, we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers. So the ARM Data Workbench, in a nutshell, is a revolutionary new ecosystem designed to fully utilize ARM's data, computing, and software capabilities to greatly enhance data access and interactivity for users. This provides a suite of tools that lets users find data, interact with it. You can have a no-code interface, which would be the Data Studio, or you can have a more advanced interface, which would be using JupyterLab to interact with data. And all these tools are integrated together. And don't worry, there'll be QR codes for the links for all these, and there'll be a link to the slides at the end of this. And I believe Michelle will be sending a link out at the end as well. So the Workbench components consist of the dashboard, which is your central location for everything Data Workbench related. There will also be a widget in the applications that lets you access this easily on the sidebar. It will have all the same menu options and allow you to get back to the dashboard for the full-size page. Next, you have data discovery, which is how users find and discover data, order data, and will allow you to select data and then navigate to the Data Studio, as we'll be showing in the next demo. The Data Studio is our new no-code interface that allows users to select data streams, specify criteria, and then visualize the data. It just came out later last year, and it's been in beta all the way up until this meeting. And we'll be continuing to collect feedback on all these. And then JupyterLab, it's been out for 2 years now, maybe 3 years. And it allows users to interact with data using Python or R. You can stage orders and interact with example notebooks, which will also be covered in the demos. So from here, I'm going to hand it off to Wade Darnell so he can demo the dashboard and data discovery along with Data Studio.
All right, perfect. So as Kyle said, this is going to be an overview of data discovery and how it integrates within the ARM Data Workbench ecosystem, along with how the ARM Data Studio integrates within the ARM Data Workbench ecosystem. And so we're going to begin by going to the data discovery search page, and I'm going to search for a data stream. And the data stream I'm searching for today is going to be ENA SOND. So I'm going to open up the details. And folks familiar with data discovery will recognize that there's a new button here. Folks that are maybe a little bit less familiar with data discovery, you can refer to these data detail modals. They contain a lot of data about these different data products, plots, variables, the timeline. But what we're focusing on right now is this new button you'll see down here at the bottom. And we have the option to open this data product within the ARM Data Studio. And so I'm just going to click this, and this is going to take us straight to the ARM Data Studio. And you can see we're immediately presented with this kind of welcome splash pop-up here. And since we navigated from data discovery and selected that previous data stream, the ENA SON, it's actually going to initiate this new project with this data stream. And so you can think of projects as being individual collections of criteria that you can go in and you can configure however you like. You can add different data streams, you can add different variables, you can plot these different variables over time, and we're going to show how you would accomplish tasks like that here shortly. And so as this note says, in order to load the data stream that we just picked from Discovery, I'm going to need to make a new project. So I'm just going to call this my new song project. If you wanted to, you could add other members here. That way you could actually share projects with other users. Other users could share projects with you. So it really encourages, a good level of collaboration that way. I'm just going to go ahead and make this project. So now you can see actually this new data stream that I've just navigated from Discovery using. You can see now it's popping up here in the Data Studio automatically here underneath the criteria. And so by default, it's just going to pick the first variable in the list of available variables for this data stream. If I wanted to, I could edit this. I could pick a different one from here, pick different values. For now, I'm just going to leave this one, but I am actually going to add a new one. So I'm going to add a new variable, and I could actually pick from any data stream that I want. Currently, the Data Studio supports almost 70 different data streams, with more being added all the time. But I want to see the values for the same data stream. So I'm going to pick it, and I'm going to pick relative humidity. So you can see the minimum values, the maximum values are auto-filled. I'm just going to leave these. And now you can see our project has two criteria, both the same data stream, but different variables. And so this data stream is still being collected. It's actually going to default to the last month. You could expand or contract this time range as needed. I'm just going to leave it at the default, just the past month. And so now we're ready to move on to the next step. And so at this point, we're loading in all the different data values for those two measurements for that data stream. We're loading it into the studio for the past month. And you can see these are the matching dates. So I'm going to proceed to the next step. I'm just going to leave these selected. You can enable or disable these as you wish. I'm just going to leave it, go to the next step. And so now we're presented with the ability to visualize our selections for our project. So you'll see over here we have different plot types we can choose from. Right now we have both time series as well as scatter plots available. Both of them use the atmospheric data community toolkit library, the ACT, currently version 2.13. And we plan to add more types of plots in the near future, including QC flag block, spatial contour plot, and radar display using PyArt. So for now, I'm just going to pick a scatter plot. And you can see we have two options here, x-axis variable, y-axis variable. For the x-axis, I'm going to pick our first variable that we chose, and the y-axis, I'm just going to pick the other one. Grid size, I'm just going to leave the default, and I'm going to generate these visualizations. So this is generating these plots on the fly using the data from the variables that we selected earlier. We'll give it just a moment to render these plots. And you can see we have a lot of plots now. You can view 3 per row. You can view 1 per row. Of course, if you want, you can click these to get a better view. It'll pop out. You can zoom in a little. And so now we can move on to different ways you can get the data. Right now we have the availability to download our selections as a CSV file. You can click that. Download all the selections to a file. And in the near future, we're going to be able to actually order the data from here using data discovery. We're going to be able to stage it to the Workbench JupyterHub. And some more coming soon features include submitting a data set through the ARM online metadata editor application that we'll need, as well as submitting scripts and sharing those with the broader community. And so before I pass this on to my colleague, Michael G. in Syracuse, to cover the ARM Data Workbench JupyterHub, I actually want to go back to data discovery because data discovery, data studio, data workbench, they're all part of the ARM Data Workbench ecosystem. And so you'll notice over here on the right, for these applications that are all part of the ecosystem, they're integrated in such a way that you can seamlessly navigate between all these different applications. And so you can see kind of this pop-up. We have the overview of the current state of the ARM data workbench ecosystem. And you can see that these different modules, so to speak, are sort of organized into actions, right? So right now we're in the ARM Data Studio where we visualized the data based on our own selections. So you can see this is currently activated. So now if I want to go over to data discovery, that would be for finding data. I want to search and download data. So I'm going to click this. You can see instantly navigating to discovery. And so let's say I want to actually stage data to the Workbench JupyterHub. So in that case, I'm going to go back to my data search. I'm actually going to search for same data product. And let's add it to our cart. Go to the cart. And let's restrict the dates just a little bit so it's not as huge of an order. Let's say restricted to July 21st. So about a month of data. Oh, looks like I actually went back. Here we go. That was what I wanted to do. So I'm going to check out, and you'll notice there's an option down here, stage data to Workbench JupyterHub. So I'm going to click this. You'll see I have the option to stage it to my home directory. So I'm going to submit this data request. So now I've ordered the data and I've also staged it to my home directory in the Workbench JupyterHub. And so now I'll pass it over to my colleague, Michael J. in Syracuse. He's going to show how once you've staged the data, how you can interact with the data in Workbench JupyterHub. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, well, thank you, Wade. I assume you just introduced me. I didn't hear it, but after you have staged any data from our data discovery, you can go to our Jupyter server. JupyterHub is part of the ARM ecosystem. It's a browser-based optimized analysis platform where you can log in and access code, notebooks, and data all directly from your browser without having to host anything locally. As part of the ARM ecosystem, when you make an ARM account, everyone gets an Explore ARM data account. It is our limited computing resources account, which has no persistent storage and a set amount of computing resources allocated to it. Through the links we'll provide at the end, you can apply for an elevated research account, which gives you access to the research system server. The benefits of that are persistent storage, configurable memory and CPU allocation, which can allow for parallel processing and storing larger data sets. You can do a lot of work on this without ever having to download any data, staging it directly from our data discovery into the Jupyter ecosystem. The account at the top is a profile that many users don't get, but it's an example of how we can, through special requests and allocations, give our users significantly more computing resources in addition to rapid flash storage. So for things that require significantly more processing power or many users to log in at the same time, we do have profiles and capacity to be able to allocate considerably more resources than for the main base accounts. So for this example, we're going to log into the research system server. It may take a few minutes to load up. And so while we're talking about what that's happening, I'm going to mention staging data directly from our data discovery puts it into a home directory that is created when you get an elevated ARM account. All users with an elevated ARM account get this home directory, which you are generally the admin of, and you have mostly free reign to do what you like. However, there are some constraints. So we do tend to do periodic security scans of it, which we may ask you to update libraries or modify things as necessary. And we do reserve the right to clean up your orders directory. We have a retention policy that is similar to that of our data discovery FTP area, which we can talk about a little bit later. So as part of setting this up, I have pre-staged some data similar to the data that Wade was just showing you. The ENA SON WPN data stream is one of our newer and more popular ones. And through this interface, you are given the ability to view the files. You are given a terminal to, let's see, interact with the data as well. Let's see, I'm going to go to orders. Here we go. We can see all of our data is right here. I can pre-configured are the NCO tools, which will allow you to do things like NC dump data, NCRCat, many of the C libraries that underpin most of the netcdf functionality of many of the Python, R, and Julia libraries are already baked into the environment, and so through the terminal, you can access those. We do, however, provide several other computing environments, all built into this notebook environment. Most popular being the Python kernel, Julia, Octave, Pluto, and R. I'm going to give you a couple examples of using Python, Julia, and R to consume and visualize some of the data. These are examples. We generally provide some of these notebook files tailored to user-specific orders upon delivery to the JupyterHub ecosystem. However, we're always adding more, taking requests, and improving the system as it progresses. So if you have any requests, we'll talk about how to submit those at the end. So an example of the Python visualization libraries and notebooks, the base Python kernel that comes installed with this Jupyter notebook has many of the libraries that you'll need to analyze netcdf files and ARM data pre-installed. It comes with the netcdf libraries as well as ACT, which is the ARM Community Toolkit, a collection of Python functions and classes that are built for specifically analyzing ARM data and provide visualization functionality, data quality checks, as well as many other things. And so I recommend that you check out the ACT library. We also have the PyArt library and many other visualization libraries pre-installed. And so in this very simple example, we're going to show how you can, using matplotlib, access some of the files that were staged into my home directory as part of the ordering system. You can read them using the netcdf library. You can view the variables and dimensions. We're using specifically the one that Wade had showed you earlier. So this is the SON WPN data stream. There is functionality for simple visualizations as well as more complex visualizations. I am not an atmospheric scientist, so these are notebooks developed by others, but they provide significant functionality just right out of the box. We do provide extra libraries upon request, and I will show you that at the end as well. So we also have an example of a Julia notebook. This one has less libraries installed. However, you can read the files and get most of the data you want out of them. However, we haven't built this one out quite yet to include all of the visualization packages that we would like to eventually install. So these are just some examples of some of the things you can do with the base environment. We also have R support. So this one takes a few minutes to load because it's a more complex notebook. Oh, that was faster than I expected. So you can use R to load up the files, list the variables and the values, just as you did with Python. You can get a summary of the data structures. You can do some basic visualizations here as well. Here's a couple different examples of how you might visualize this data, and you can generate some more complex plots as well, including some statistical analysis tools. And so all of this is built into the environment from the get-go. We accept requests for new libraries, and we're happy to interact with you on that. You're also welcome to build any custom notebooks you like in this environment. Because this is the elevated account, anything in your home directory is persistent. So as long as you put it in your home directory, it will stay for as long as necessary. And if there are any modifications needed because of vulnerabilities, we will notify you as such. So every user gets their own library or their own environment. However, you do have access to several profiles sometimes, like I showed you in the beginning. To switch between profiles, which you may want to do if you have access to several, you would need to stop your server. Takes a moment to load. And then restart it, because we use cookies to save your persistent session. If you just log out and log back in, you'll go right back into the same profile that you were in before. So if you wanted to switch profiles, you would have to stop your server and then restart it. In any of the profiles, including the Explore ARM data one, which has no persistent storage, you will have access to the ARM data workbench widgets, which Kyle and Wade were both talking about earlier in this demonstration. Okay, here we go. It's taking a moment to load. And so those widgets are part of the ARM ecosystem, right? So you have access on the launcher here to the ARM data widget. That'll let you browse the different functionalities of the ARM system. You also have a sidebar here, which does the same thing. And on this side. So we put it everywhere. You can access the ARM data workbench from any part of the Jupyter ecosystem, including if you have files open. The one on the left, the one on the right will always be available. So that concludes my portion of this talk. In the main login screen, you will see links to our knowledge base and our contact at clustersupport@arm.gov. If you have any more questions, you require help, or you would like to request either special workshop access or special libraries or any other anything that you may need. For instance, we provide some special environments for specific processing user groups that are developing our value-added products. And so please reach out to us. We are glad to help you with any of your ARM data computing needs.
So what's coming next is we're going to continue collecting user feedback. You'll see the option to a red box on the side on most of these apps that say feedback. You can provide feedback that way. There's multiple options on Discovery at the top and then the footer, I believe, that will let you submit feedback. And you can also reach out to the ADC at any time, and we'll go ahead and add it to our list of feedback. We are also planning on improving the data studio with more visualizations, adding the features that Wade mentioned earlier with placing orders, staging, and contributing. We will also be exposing more capabilities through CLI and API, along with adding AI capabilities, more integrations, and again, more feedback. Also, there will be a survey going out via email to everyone that is for this webinar. The link will be here as well. You can use the QR code or the link here. There'll be a link to these slides that will have all this information at the end as well, along with the computing resources and the ARM user program, where you can find additional information about ARM and the computing resources. You can find out anything about the Workbench or our high performance computing capabilities. I am going to jump back to cover one thing on the dashboard. What was shown was the widget side of things, but let me try to make this full screen. Of course, I'm getting a million windows open. All right, is everyone able to see the data workbench dashboard now?
Yeah.
All right,
Mm-hmm.
so the full size dashboard is the same thing that's in the little widget that's on the side. This makes it a little bit easier to read, but I wanted to point out specifically the Learn section. This Learn section will take you to our knowledge base, which will help you get started with the workbench. So I'm just going to click it, and it will take me over here to ServiceNow. And you can see a bunch of different sections here. So most importantly, there is an applying for elevated JupyterHub access and overview of the data workbench. These will give you the information you need to really get started. This tells you where the login is, the different levels of service, where to request the information. I'm just going to jump over the levels of service because I know Michael covered this briefly, but there are different types of access you have. On his, you saw the summer school and then the research account access, but there's different access depending whether you're infrastructure or a science user. There's different access if you're part of a workshop or the summer school. It's all tailored to what you have access to, what you'll be able to request access through the links on these pages. But the short version is the Explore ARM data, like Michael mentioned, is available to everyone right out the door. All you have to have is an ARM account, but there is no persistent storage. The elevated JupyterHub access. This one is for scientists that need access to persistent storage and more resources. Then you have the research system account, which is meant for infrastructure users, which gives a little bit more access to various data. And then the workshop access, which we usually send out different notifications for summer schools and whatnot. But I will take you guys through the process of requesting access really quick or just starting it. So if you go to the applying for elevated JupyterHub access, there's a link here that will take you to ServiceNow where you can hit this research account request. And it'll ask you to sign in with your ARM account. If you don't have an ARM account at this point, then you'll need to register for one for free. But on here, you can select resource, and then you'll have these three options for the workbench. You'll have the ARM Data Center Research System and JupyterHub infrastructure access. This would be for infrastructure users. The enhanced JupyterHub access, which would be the one for research users. And then you have the workshop access, which would be for like summer schools. And I'm going to jump back to the dashboard one more time. I can't make it full screen now. There we go. So there's also the option to publish notebooks back to the community. So you can click down here under the publish section. And this is where we have our open source area for everything that is ARM notebook wise. So you can find examples of past tutorials, different instrumentation, VAPs, all sorts of things. Anything that's been contributed to the community, whether it was provided by ARM or by the community, they will end up here. And there is a wealth of knowledge on here, especially for like the previous summer school ones that will go through in great detail on how to do various things and work with the data. I'm going to jump back to these slides. And at this point, thank you all for attending. If you have any questions, please let us know. We have a ton of time for questions and answers, and just raise your hand or post a message in the chat and we'll go from there. And I also realized I forgot to put an email address on here. You can contact ADC at arm.gov as well for anything That will cover the tools, the workbench, anything else, we'll get it routed to the right person or group.
This might be unrelated, but again, yes, I really enjoy the explanation. It's really looks really good and exciting. But my question is regarding the data itself. Is there any documentation or guidelines we should use, or someone we can contact regarding the data itself or how it's organized?
Yep. I will pull up data discovery and show how that information can easily be found. All right, so if you go over to data discovery, is data discovery showing on my screen?
Yes.
You search for data. I'm just going to select one. Down here, you can see instrument contacts, where you can go ahead and actually, it'll send a message to the mentors or whoever the contact is to get more information. You can also access the instrument and VAP info handbooks that show up, the instrument handbooks, the campaign information. So if you have a direct question for them, you can ask it or jump over to arm.gov. I guess this pulled the actual handbook down where you can find all the information you could want on the data.
Calibration information, data quality information, and all the algorithms that that went in to produce this data, all those are available there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we'll be adding more to Discovery as well to pull in the calibrations. I don't know where my window went. More onto Discovery so that that information is in the timeline as well for calibrations. So up here where it shows the DQ information, there'll also be listing for calibrations. That's coming soon.
Thanks.
And if you have any generic question, I'm talking on behalf of Rolanda. There is a help option and ask us question in almost all the pages. So you're welcome to reach us, and one of the staff from ARM will try to get back to you as soon as possible.
Thanks.
Yep. You'll see this red feedback button over here where you can allow putting a message in. And you can provide an email address if you want follow-up, or if you just want it to be anonymous, you can hit skip. And that will go to us along with at the top. There's a support form there. And then along with the bottom, you'll see across our applications that have another support option, which will open up that same prompt.
I think there's a comment in the chat, Gary and Kyle.
Okay.
More information behind the ARM database instead of processing and visualizing the data offline. We might need some clarification, but
okay, more information behind the ARM database instead of processing and visualize the data offline. So if you're thinking about like learning all the data that ARM currently archives and distributes, the primary place for you to go there is data discovery. And then you can actually see almost every data that is user accessible, along with all the details about the data and the data quality, plots, citing data, availability, and everything. And you are welcome to order any of those data and get it. Either it will be delivered to you through FTP or various other means, or as Michael, Wade, and Kyle talked, you can actually stage that data, or you request us to stage the data into the Jupyter notebook where you can actually do your data analysis.
I dropped it in the chat. There is some other additional learning resources on the ARM website from past webinars and tutorials. So it might help answer some of the questions. And if you are looking there and it's not there, send us a note and maybe we can put together a learning webinar for you all and share it with everybody. So and feel free to put them in the survey topics that you would like us to do additional webinars on for using ARM data. We could then evaluate those.
And this webinar was a lot of information. We just wanted to cover the surface. So I believe there will be opportunities for potential mini series down the road to cover smaller bits in greater detail. But just reach out and let us know.